Happy Friday. I cannot believe you guys have made it through 3 weeks of online learning. I am so proud of you guys. You have showed up for your Zoom lessons. You have worked really hard. You've turned in all your assignments, and we have one more week. We have Holy Week next week, and then it is spring break. So that is something to look forward to. You have one more week, and then you get a break. So keep working hard, guys. I am so proud of you. Hi, guys. Today we are talking about bar graphs. So yesterday we talked about pictographs, which are graphs that have pictures on them. And so sometimes one picture means 2 people, sometimes it means 5 people, sometimes it just means 1. It depends on what the key is. So this particular one, each picture means 2. We are going to still be using data in a chart like this, but we're showing it using bars. So it's called a bar graph because it has bars that go up, or sometimes the bars go sideways. So for this one, it says Mark takes a survey of some 3rd grade students to find out which flavor of juice they like best. He shows the results in a chart. That's this part right here. Then Mark uses the chart to make a graph. So these two show the same information, but this shows it with a chart with numbers. This shows it in a bar graph or like a picture. A bar graph is a graph that shows data using bars. The scale along the side, that's these numbers here, it's called a scale, is set equally spaced marks. So each mark is an equal number. And the first bar in the graph tells you that 8 students like apple juice. That might be kind of hard to see on my screen, but you have the same thing on page 235. So we're going to use these things, these 2 data graphs, and answer some questions together. So the first one says, how many students like grape juice? So I can look right here and it says 4 students like grape juice. Or if I look, this specifically says use the bar graph. So I'm going to look for grape along the bottom, and I'm going to go all the way to the top, and it says 4 students. So I'm going to write 4 students because we've been doing measuring and we always label our answer. Number 2, which juice flavor is the student's least favorite, which means they do not like it as much. I'm going to look for the smallest bar. It's this one right here. It only has 2 students, but it says which juice flavor. It's not asking a number. I'm going to answer pineapple. I'm also going to spell it correctly because it is right there. There are a couple more. There are questions like, how many more students like orange than pineapple? So I need to look at 2 of them and I'm going to subtract. So which one's the most? 10 for orange and 2 for pineapple. So how many more? That's a subtraction problem. Which 2 flavors do students like best? I'm going to have 2 answers. And then this one's a little tricky too. How many students were in this survey? That means you're counting up all of them, the total. And this is how do you know? Because if you counted up each juice flavor, that will tell you. Okay, that's the first page. Here's the second. This is very similar. So you are using the bar graph. This is a different bar graph. This one shows average animal lifespan. So the number of years, just how many years do they live, and the type of animal. So a bear lives 18 years, a cat lives 12, a chipmunk lives 6. One thing I want to point out is when I was talking about bar graphs, it says the scale along one side of the bar graph is a set of equally spaced marks. So I want to show you on this one right here. It starts at 0, the next bar is 2, then it's 4, then it's 6. So it is counting by 2s. You could also count by 1s, that's fine. But what it's saying is that they have to be equal. So each space is about the same. So the space equals same. Okay, it's not like this. These are not the same. That's not an equal scale. So I'm not going to use a bar graph like this and have 1, 2, 3, 4. Is that equal? Not even close. So when I'm doing it, I need to have 0 as always at the bottom, 1, 2, 3, 4, or 2, 4, 6, 8, or 5, 10, 15, 20. They have to be, you have to skip count by the same number, but all the way up, and the spacing needs to be equal. This is not space same. Okay. So if you look at bar graphs, the number that the scale on the side is always equal spacing. So you're going to answer some questions here. And then the next activity you're going to do is in your reading packet here, or sorry, math packet. And it says graphs that represent data, okay? If you do that and you still have extra time, you can come back and do this page and the back of it, but that is an extra. So you are going to do graphs that represent data. So I'm going to find the bar graphs. We did this one yesterday, graphs that represent data. So this one only has 2 questions, that's it. But each one, it says, make a bar graph. Make a bar graph. We've just been reading bar graphs and using that information, but today we actually have to make them. So I'm going to show you what that looks like. So Eli asked his friends, look at the table and answer the following question. So Eli asked his friends to vote for the best food. Make a bar graph of the results. So here are foods. What is their best food? We've got cakes, tea, burgers, and pies. And this is the number of votes. So he asked all these people. You're going to answer how many more votes were casted for burgers than pie. Remember, that means you're going to look at burgers. You're going to look at pies, burgers, pies. How many more means you subtract. And then how many friends voted for teas and cakes? That means you're going to add them. So you're going to look at tea. You're going to look at cakes. And anytime you see and, you're going to add. Now, it specifically said make a bar graph. So I'm actually going to pull this paper out so that I can look at it. And the next page here is graph paper. Makes it a little easy because look, all of the spacing is already there for you. So let me show you. Now there are 2 questions here and I only have 1 piece of graph paper. So I'm going to use this graph paper for both questions. I'm just going to fold it in half here. That way I can use it for 2 questions. Okay. So here's my first one. I'm going to make sure that the space, the big space is on the side and the bottom because I need to write some words down there. So first of all, we need to give this a title. So this one is best food. So I'm going to give it a title called best food. Okay, now what are my foods? We had cakes, teas, burgers, and pies. So one of these is going to be cakes. One is going to be burgers. One is going to be tea. And one is going to be pies. And see how, look, they all have their own little categories. So when I make the bars, I can make them each square here. Now I need to put the scale. Am I going to count by 2s? Am I going to count by 1s? What am I going to do on the side? Now, in order to determine that, you have to look at these numbers here. I'm only going to count to 5. I definitely have 5 squares, so I can count by 1s. If I had to go to, say, 25, I might count by 2s or 5s or 10s or something like that. But because I only have to go to 5, I can count by 1. So each little mark here is going to be 1. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Sometimes we go a little bit higher than that last number. Now I'm not done because I haven't finished labeling. What do these numbers mean? They mean number of votes. So I have to put a title over here, number of votes. And I have to put what do these words mean? They mean food items. And look, all of that information is right here. Now, I am not going to do this whole graph for you. I've already done quite a bit, but I'm just kind of showing you how would you graph this. I'm going to use a marker or a colored pencil because it's a little easier. Now, cakes, I'm going to look at cakes. How many votes? There were 2 votes. So my cakes is going to go all the way up to 2. Here's my cake bar, and I'm going to color that in. Now I wrote mine out of order because my next one is burgers. That one says 5. I'm going to color all the way up to 5. Tea and pies. Now I'm not going to do it because this is something you need to do, but here's how you would set it up. You first got to make sure it has a title. You need to label your items. You need to put your scale. You need to label the scale, and you need to label the categories. So there's a lot of things before you even do the graphing. And then you've got number 2. So you're going to, Juliet asked her classmates to vote for their favorite pet animal, make a bar graph. Here's your space for the bar graph. Remember, we just folded it in half. Space for your bar graph. There's the information to graph, and you have 2 questions. If you finish that and you still have time in your hour of math, then you can go back, and there's 2 more pages of math here, 237 and 238, that you can do. You got to do a bar graph, but this doesn't give you squares. You just draw right there. That's up to you if you have time. So happy graphing, guys. Your Lenten journey and reflection writing today, we're going to split just about 2 pages. And you are going to write to the prompt, make a list of 3 people who you know who may need prayers. Include your prayer request. So you are going to write a list of 3 people. And I might skip lines. And you're going to write who needs a prayer, and what is the prayer. Okay, so I could say, my grandma, and my prayer for my grandma, that she is able to talk to people every day on the phone to stay connected. So I said, who needs a prayer, and then what the prayer is. And you're going to do that for 2 more people, and it could be anybody you want. Today is Friday, which means it is spelling test day. So I'll see you at 10 a.m. for the spelling test Zoom. So again, as always on Friday, you need to make sure you are ready for your spelling test. If you are ready for your spelling test, here's what you're going to do. We're going to do some prefix and suffix task cards. We've done prefixes and suffixes. So you will need this packet here because it has the prefix suffix task card page on it. And I will show you the task cards in just a minute. If you finish that, then you can also do pages 194. Those are both review, so they should be things you already know. Okay, so if you're ready for your spelling test, time for task cards. So go ahead and get out this paper. And here we go. Okay, so here are the task cards. I'm going to scroll through them, and you can pause the video if you need. So just let me show you what we're doing. This is task card 1, so you're going to find box number 1 up here, and it says, my shoe is not tied. Which one of these has the correct prefix for not tied? Is it retied, untied, or distied? I think it's untied, so I'm going to write untied in box number 1. And there are 24 of these, 28 of these, it looks like. You can do half of them and stop. You can do all of them. It just depends on how much time you are spending, because we only spend about an hour in reading. Here we go. Welcome back to science. We have been talking a lot about weather and we're going to switch to climate. So weather is a day-to-day thing. So one day it can be rainy and sunny and windy, and the next day it could be snowing. But climate, we're going to be talking about climate. Climate is something that happens long term. So what is the weather like most of the time? So I'm going to ask you a few questions and I want you to think to yourself, what is the answer? Okay, so here we have a world map here, and I'm going to ask some questions. I want you to think, where does weather occur? We've got this whole world. Where does it occur? If you said it occurs in the atmosphere, you would be correct. So you guys hopefully know that the whole world is covered by atmosphere, and that's the air that's kind of surrounding the earth. It's kind of like a big bubble around it. And I want you to look at this world and think about where the atmosphere or the air, where might it be particularly warm? My guess is it's probably not really warm up here and it's probably not really warm down here. So where in here is it warm? Where might the atmosphere be particularly dry? Where might it be moist, or where would there be a lot of moisture or water in the air? Where is it particularly cool? And where might it be very cold? Okay, so let's go through those again. So where is it particularly warm? Right through here. Here's the middle of the world. There's a kind of an invisible line called the equator, and that's where it's going to be particularly warm. Anything that is right around that middle area, that's going to be the warmest part. Where is it dry? It's going to be in desert areas that are kind of in the middle and away from the water. So this is in the middle away from the water. This is in the middle away from the water. This is in the middle away. This is in the middle. And you can kind of tell a little bit by the color. Where is it particularly moist or wet in the air? So around the water, anywhere where it's close to water, around the outside of places, and in the jungle. Where is it particularly cool? It could also be pretty cool next to the water, but also in places that have higher altitude. So in places with very tall mountains. And where is it cold? Very high altitudes, again, with wherever the mountains are. The tippy top of mountains are going to be cold. Plus all of these areas here, these really cold frozen areas. Okay, we're going to learn a few words right here. Here is part of the Earth's climate system. So we just talked about atmosphere, and that is the air that surrounds the Earth. Then we also have the biosphere, and that is the Earth's plant and animal life. So anytime we're talking about plants and animals, that's the biosphere. We have the cryosphere, which is the Earth's frozen regions. That's its tippy top and the way bottom. The hydrosphere, we know hydro means water. So all of the Earth, all the water on Earth and in its atmosphere. So that's all of like the oceans, rivers, lakes, plus those jungle areas where there's a lot of moisture in the air. And then land surface is all the solid parts of the Earth. So anywhere that there's land. So all of these countries and continents, those are land surface. Now I'm gonna, you can refer back to this and I'm gonna show you what our assignment is. So here is your paper right here, and you are going to draw the thing named in the box. Now I'm going to start with the pencil, but you need to go back, draw, plus color. So you're going to draw a lake. Here's my lake. I need to color it because it just looks like a blob right now. You're going to draw a desert. You're going to draw a forest, and you're going to draw Antarctica. Then it says, classify each thing above as part of the Earth's climate system by writing its name in the appropriate column on the chart below. So you're going to draw all of these, and then you're going to write a lake. Which one of these does a lake belong in? Is a lake part of the biosphere? Is a lake part of the cryosphere? Is a lake part of the hydrosphere, or is a lake land surface? So each one of these belong here. You can only use them once. So I think a lake is water. I know hydrosphere is water. So I'm going to put a lake here in hydrosphere. You're going to finish the other three, color, and then figure out where they belong. And let me show you that page again so you can refer back to it. Here you are.